We- So should we? Are we gonna? Would they after, but I have to leave early. So if I come, maybe I can get back after, because the meeting is gonna go what till? Yeah, sure.
Sarah, can you hear us?
We should see when we can meet, like, again, now, like, see, what do you guys think about another meeting? Like, for the end of the week or something like that? No, you said no. What about?
Yeah. Adjourn. Table it.
We'll do a text chain or something.
Good
Can you
evening.
hear us yet?
Did anyone hear anything from Paige? Alan? No. Okay.
One, two, 4, 6, 7. We got enough. Got a quorum. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know she wanted to Zoom. She could have did remote, Lynette.
Oh, yeah. She could have. Oh, you had to be physical. Oh, okay. So you had to be physical present. So she has.
Still, I need 5.
Yeah. 5. Yeah.
So you're good. You can give us a thumbs up. Perfect, thank you.
You sent it to me.
What?
Text with the center. And then
Oh, did I? I'm sorry. Moving too fast. I'm sorry.
oh,
All good to go.
all right. I didn't log on yet.
She's gonna send the link to her.
Yeah. Oh,
Did she say how long?
okay.
How late?
Yeah. All right. Just give me a moment. Okay. Just trying to. I can see. Yeah. Yeah, mine's not coming up. Okay. Good evening. We're gonna call the meeting to order at 6:07 PM or 6:10. We'll start with a roll call. I'm President Pryor.
Vice President Gauze.
Paige Barnum, Vice President Finance.
Trustee Andrea West, Secretary.
Trustee Jennifer Marlowe.
Trustee Mary Rush.
Trustee Sarah Masinski.
Okay, excuse,
I'm virtual.
thank you. Trustee Allen and Trustee Lynette Robinson will be joining us shortly. Okay, is there any public comment?
But if you could still come up to the podium, that'd be great.
That way I'm a camera.
Yes.
Hey, guys.
Good evening.
Hey, Dan Platt. You may know me. I ran for board in the spring, one of the many candidates. But I'm basically here to share my interest. Oh yeah, Daniel Platt, 1870 1 Elk Street. So I wanted to share just one. I will follow up on this. It's probably a more prepared statement, but I'm basically more in an ad hoc capacity here to share my interest. One of the issues I brought up when I was running for school library board was, and got me a few votes, I think, was a library of things. Now, only 10% of all library of things that exist are actually in libraries, but those that have done it, it's quite successful. If you need a little primer on it, it's simply like loaning out tablets and other such technology, but it's also any household item, board games, housewares, things that most working families could maybe not afford, but can be loaned out. Usually a wall of cubbies and the items are in them is usually how it's set up inside of a public library. I have a report by Shareable, an organization that kind of supports and studies the sharing economy. And anyone who's interested, I'll just hand this one over, but I I have a PDF. Anyone who wants it, I can email it. But essentially, just some things of note is the stat that public library is 10%, only 10% of these. Usually they're tool libraries. Historic Foundation has, with the help of many people, including myself, established a tool library, and so that's covered. But otherwise, then there's all of that other menagerie, which leads to that most library things just have a budget of 15 grand. There's stats about the kind of staff that they require. Usually, about half don't have any staff, meaning the library system here may likely not have to hire someone new to manage such an initiative. They provide other services. There's a ton of little stats and bar graphs so you can kind of see the kind of users, the kind of membership structures they would have. Totally different for a public library like ourselves, as well as all of the kind of groups and organizations. So you can kind of take a look at what they're doing. So otherwise, I'll just leave it at that. And perhaps next time I'll actually type something up to share. But otherwise, the resources to explain and make the case for how great library things are is sort of the work is already done. So I just want to share it with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll be going into executive session to discuss the terms and conditions of our executive director. I will ask for a motion to go into executive session. All in favor? Aye. We are now in executive session.
Everyone can see too.
Yes.
Yeah, we have to step out. So there's no live feed anymore, right? Oh, okay. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, trustee, for. Yeah, wow.
You got it right.
Melanie, oh, okay, got it. She's like a ping pong ball.
Mhm. Okay, so we're back out of executive session. Welcome. Yes. They could before. Can you hear us, Lynette? And Sarah? Trustee Robinson, trustee Mazinski?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Okay, next on the agenda is the consent agenda. The operating,
Wait, I'm sorry, we didn't do the minutes, right?
oh, right, the minutes in the consent agenda. The
Okay,
minutes,
I-
yeah, I had
I have a-
skipped one.
Gotcha.
Thank
I got a question on the
So
minutes.
the,
So I have a question and it's procedural. I'm not so, and this would be,
Mackenzie Clark.
okay, so, we don't need to record the time we leave executive session?
you should.
So I'm looking on the minutes for September 10th. It doesn't have the time we came out. Got it. You would, got it. Okay, okay, okay.
Mhm.
Okay. She was saying I don't know if you heard her. She says she doesn't do it when we come out of executive session and immediately adjourn.
Okay.
So, okay, thank you. It makes sense.
And just so that we're clear, that Erica, you are recording the, having the minutes reflect that trustee Gauls just left and trustee Allen when she came in. Okay.
You got
And
it.
trustee Robinson and trustee Mazinski. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So any other questions on the minutes? All right, also the check register. Any questions regarding the check register? Put on check register. Any questions? No questions and referencing the consent agenda. Requesting a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Trustee Allen, I motion to accept the consent agenda. Barnum, second.
All right, trustee Allen moves to accept the consent agenda. All right, now the finance memo. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Trustees,
Hi.
thank you. That sounds like motion carries. It really do. Thank you. The finance memo.
Thank you.
Good evening. The reports this month cover August 2024, which was 17% of the way through our 2025 fiscal year. Support and revenues were in line with the approved budget for the second month of the fiscal year. Expenditures overall were slightly above the approved budget, with admin, miscellaneous, and IT costs trending over budget.
Okay, thank you, Sean. So National Grid update for the month. National Grid bills in August totaled 12,500 approximately, compared to about 18,600 in August of last year. And then the two categories that Sean touched on, the admin miscellaneous section of the budget is a little high this month, primarily due to the professional services line, 12,500 of which of the 17,000 for the month consists of our first payment to the auditors. And the majority of the IT hardware total for August stems from costs associated with upgrades that were made to our storage array, which came out to over $33,000. If you have any questions on any of that or anything on the reports, please feel free to ask.
I know I make this comment every month, but with the savings from the National Grid, it a little bit softer with the professional and the IT costs. You have a little savings, almost $6,000 in savings for National Grid. So that's not offset the other expenses, but it does help. So thank you. All right. Oh, a question.
Hi, Trustee West. So you referenced that there was, that the IT budget was slightly over. Can you explain?
Sure. So if you take a look at the treasurer's report with the breakdown of the expenditures, you can see 35,000 was spent in August. And like I said, the memo, 33,000 that was related to upgrades to our storage array. I don't have too much detail about the nature of those upgrades offhand. I can tell you that the IT hardware budget in general, usually there's a handful of larger projects during the year that budget gets spent on. I believe this was one of them.
Yeah, I can confirm that, that this was a planned for cost. Like, it was not a surprise. It was part of the maintenance that we need to do with our storage array.
I just, and I'm probably mixing up more than one thing, but I remember when they were saying that they were moving to the new system, that there was money to cover the costs under something else. So that's why I was a little.
So there is another major IT project, and that's the switch project that falls under capital. So the storage array is just part of the operating budget for the year that they're spending on hardware, and the capital project addresses the switch replacement.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so take a look at the capital fund report. Oh, the treasurer's report. Oh. Treasurer's report. Any questions in regards to the treasurer's report? Questions? Capital fund report. Where the IT switches. All right. When you have bank, see that bank fees, $11. Is that $11 for the bank fees? And 22 for the year?
The capital fund account, we do have a debit block, and that's the fee that they charge for that.
So, yeah, $11. Any questions in regards to the capital fund report? right, moving on to the cash and investment summary. Any questions? Okay. Trustees reporting now, moving on to committee and liaison reports. Thank you, Adam. Adam, Sean. Just escaped me from. Thank you, guys. Trustees reporting out. Trustee Wilkie.
I could start. Hello. This is Trustee Rush. I attended, I was so grateful and sad all at the same time to attend the memorial for Darnell in this space. It was really beautiful to hear everyone that came out to speak about him. And I'm sad that I didn't actually get to know him because just from hearing the people that spoke, a lot of the men that spoke, he brought people came to Washington Avenue branch to see him, to talk to him, and he helped inspire them, I think, to use the resources here. So I'm sure it's a very deeply felt loss throughout the system. And I was glad to show up in that way, be able to show up in that way. I attended the banned books readout. So in this room, which was nicely attended on the 24th, and it was great to bring in other community partners to that. So always good to have multiple groups coming together to put on an event here. And I saw tabling at the Upper Madison Street Fair, and I got a challenged books button made by our great button maker that I feel like everybody's got buttons from the library now. So that's really cool. That was last Sunday. And I'm very excited for budget scale that benefits the library, Friends Foundation of the Albany Public Library on the 19th of October.
Burnham.
Yeah, I also attended the banned books event with Trustees Rush, and Trustee Allen was also there, so it's good to see some turnout. But just this past Sunday, I was at the Arbor Hill branch where there was the Repair Cafe, which is a nice partnership with Historic Albany Foundation. And so they've rotated through hosting it at different library branches. And it's, for anyone that's not familiar with the Repair Cafe, it's a free event where we have all sorts of really talented folks in our community that know how to fix lamps and hem pants and fix, computers and headphones. So it's a great way to offer free and very affordable, obviously, services to our community. It's also a great, step towards sustainability by keeping items out of the landfill. People would notoriously tell us, like, oh, I found this toaster on the street. I just didn't like the idea that it was going to end up in the garbage. So they brought it in and suddenly they have a working toaster. So it's just a really wonderful partnership, and people would be returning books and ask what's going on and would go and get something to bring back to be repaired. So it was great advertising, not just for the library, but partnerships, and yeah, great event.
I attended the Pine Hills Fall Festival at the end of the month of September, where the library Pine Hills is always part of that event. So it was nice to see, and so many other community providers in the area. So as executive director, Nikolai wanted to bring the library to the people, to get out of the brick and mortar and come into the community. So that was nice to see. Any other upcoming events besides the Friends and Foundation, APL? Cafe Madness? Oh, trustee.
Can I jump in for just a second? I also went to the memorial service that was at Washington Ave for Darnell. And, in addition to, hearing what a remarkable person he was, it really was it was really impactful to hear about how the library and that specific role really works to help the community, and how much it meant to a lot of people. Just, to hear people over and over again, it was very powerful, I thought.
Thank you, trustee Malinsky. Anyone else? Okay, the executive committee, we actually just met prior to this meeting. We are trying to you guys, thank you all for getting back to me with the committee assignments. That vehicle, that form helps us to make, to try to get to your interest as much as possible. So we appreciate that. And so right now, we're still in deliberation on trying to get that together. So hopefully we can meet most of your interest. But just so you know that all the committees are very interesting and exciting, and you will learn something. So thank you, and we will have that before the end of before the next meeting. So we will have that as soon as possible. And so I don't know if we can email trustees or something like that once we decide on what the assignment would be.
I think the executive committee has to meet, and discuss that in the
Well,
public.
Right, I mean, in person, right,
Oh.
but I mean, once it's decided, we don't have to wait to the next meeting. If we have another meeting prior to November, like 2 weeks from now, we can email the trustees and let them know which committees they will be having, so.
I don't see why not. As long as the decisions are made in the public meeting and then,
Public.
yeah.
I'll
check
on that. The actual decisions need to be made.
Right, right, but I mean, once the decision has been made, can I just email all the the trustees and let them know they don't have to wait till,
Follow up.
thank you. All right. Thanks. All right. Okay, again, upcoming overview of the committee meetings. Once your meetings are assigned, then a chair would be assigned, and then you would all start planning your monthly meetings. And that would be, a decision up to that committee. So, which obviously, if your committee can't make on Mondays, you wouldn't schedule for a Monday meeting. So whatever your members can meet, that's when you decide what time and date you would meet. So that's up to your decision. Director's report.
Okay. Well, each September, we focus on a couple of different things that are very important to the library. One of them is library card registration. So September is library card sign up month. And this year we partnered with UAlbany and we went every single Wednesday, I think it was, from 2 to 4 in the main library lobby. And we signed students up for library cards. And it was incredibly successful. Students are smart. Let me tell you, these undergrads know where to find the deals. They were signing up in droves. We signed up over 200 people for library cards. I got to participate in one of the sign up days, and it's a great example of meeting our community engagement goal by leveraging the outreach talents of our head of community engagement and programs and partnerships staff. In September, as Trustee Rush alluded to, mentioned, and Brigitte, you mentioned earlier, our Banned Books Week happens in September. We once again partnered with the NYCLU. We also had partners in Planned Parenthood, the Albany County League of Women Voters, and the Albany, New York alumna chapter of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. And then right after that event, on Saturday, the 28th, I had the honor of being a guest at the Women's Club of Albany Banned Books Bash. And that was an opportunity to read out from a banned book of my choice alongside the likes of Nell Stokes and Tishawn Murdoch and Maggie Cahill of Capital Rep and a bunch of other people who I was really honored to be with. And I chose to read from Being Jazz by Jazz Jennings, which is the autobiography of a transgender girl. I'm going to go through some highlights from the other areas of the report, and I'm going to start with administration. I attended the first meeting of the Violence Prevention Task Force, and it's a great group. And I'm really looking forward to working on my my working group, which is the Education and Awareness Working Group of the Violence Prevention Task Force for the city. So the meeting schedule is pretty rigorous. It's every other week, 2 meetings every other week. So it's Tuesday nights, and it's 2 Tuesdays and 2 Thursdays of each month. One meeting, the Violence Prevention Task Force is in person, and then the working group meetings are virtual. Again, Literary Legends tickets are on sale for that October 19 event, and we have a full complement of staff volunteers who are going to help out at the event and also be there to enjoy the event. So you'll get to, those of you who are attending, mix and mingle with staff as well as with other library supporters and donors. And I can't wait. It's going to be a wonderful event. I want to call out a couple of other upcoming events. One is Misinformation and Manipulation of the Voting Public. That is taking place on October 16th, so next week, with a professor of poli-sci at Siena. And that's taking place from 6 to 7 at Howe. We are also hosting an art show opening in this very room, the Prisoners Legal Services art show is called Untitled Art from Behind Bars, and it's artwork by people who are incarcerated across New York State. And I know it's also the kickoff to Pro Bono Week, when attorneys across the land are encouraged to volunteer their services in service of people who are incarcerated or who were recently incarcerated. So please come. There will be food and it'll be free. And the artwork is absolutely stunning. I've seen it. It is really profound and makes an impact. Under community engagement, HR generalist Irina Dacey and and Rebecca, she's writing in first person. They welcomed the social work student, Caitlin Woolley, who is helping us out by providing emotional support and counseling services to staff in the wake of incidents or with general topics that they're struggling with in life. And it's really the first time we've ever piloted a program like this. And she's actually on site here, and she can travel. She can also do virtual appointments. So it's sort of like a really special in-house resource for staff. And it's something we're trying, and she's already helped out a few people. So I'm excited to see where that goes.
Do you know where she's coming from as a student?
UAlbany. Yes. Under programs and partnerships, we were present for several back to school nights. So Giffen, Myers, Toast, and Delaware Community School. And we were also at Albany High on the first day to do library card registrations. So that was a really good effort on the part of our programs and partnerships department. And then under branch services, I just want to highlight something from each branch that I think was pretty special or awesome. So in Arbor Hill, West Hill programming, the Silent Wings Rehabilitation and Education Center brought live birds and the first appearance of an actual turkey vulture in the branch, which was really impressive to the kids and families who were in attendance. At Bach, we hosted a program with a local wrestling organization called The Dynasty, and wrestlers came to read to children and answer questions about being pro wrestlers, and that was a huge hit. Delaware hosted a tiny art show with tiny little masterpieces that are now on display in the lobby of the branch and painted by patrons. At Howe, starting in September, we changed the start time of Saturday story time from 10:30 to 11:30, and we were hoping to do that to see if families who missed the 10:30 time slot slide on over and pick up the 11:30. And sure enough, we did have a noticeable increase in attendance in September, and we hope that that continues this month. At North Albany, we had an Exploding Volcanoes program with 6 kids and grown-ups in attendance for 2 days in a row, which is pretty cool. And at Pine Hills, we have a new suite of after-school programming for youth starting up this fall. We have a weekly book and art program for kids who have grown out of story time, and we have video games and board games for teens, and a new Monday evening bilingual story time. So that's good news for the working families who made it known through our survey, which we'll get to later, about all the different programs and program times that work for them. This initiative definitely meets some of those spoken needs. And then under Washington Avenue, thanks to the vendor family grant that came to us through the Friends and Foundation, we were able to expand hours at the Makerspace, and we're in the process of training staff and recruiting volunteers who can additionally help out in that space. Any questions about the report?
I
No.
just,
Oh, I'm sorry. One other sorry, I missed a couple of key updates. We hired a head of public safety and he starts on October 21st, and his name is Matt Leibowitz, and he is going to be Matt. I have his resume. I could pass it around, but his name is Matthew Leibowitz, and he comes to us from being a corrections trainer, as well as background as the person in charge of EMT services for Catskill, New York, and a bunch of other experience that really makes him a great fit for this role. And we're looking forward to welcoming him later this month.
Trustee Rush.
I just wanted to say, the Delaware branch having the Make and Take mini art show and other programs like that, because it kind of resonates of being like summer reading. You come in, you sign up for something or you take something, and then there's a reason to come back. And I'm very grateful to those programs that hopefully make repeat users out of maybe new users who come in for the first time.
Thank you. Also, I just wanted to just comment on or find a little bit more information about the breastfeeding support group, Moon Space. So you said it's a successful meeting. How many mothers?
From the photograph that I saw, it looked to be 10.
That's great.
And they're tiny babies too. So we
Yeah.
had, it was a good crew.
I actually got one of the little flyers so I can pass on to my network, because this is absolutely wonderful. The support that, some mothers don't have, and this may be a vehicle for them to meet other mothers and the challenges of breastfeeding. So thank you.
Thank you.
All
All
right.
right.
Any other questions? All right, so you had 41 incidents.
Yes, we did.
So,
So slight uptick from last month, but and actually we have a repeat offender who has been trespassed for 6 months. He keeps on coming back to multiple branches, and we're working with APD to address that. But that person probably represents a share of the incidents that happened in September, because he came on the scene in early September. So I want to say at least 5 of these incidents are probably just related to that. And he's aggressive and verbally harasses staff, and also acts in ways that are frightening, because he waves his arms, and it can be interpreted different ways. Anyway, we believe that he has some mental struggles, but he really has a hard time being in our space.
Oh, and then I was just gonna comment too, that as you mentioned, with the Women's Club, the Albany Band Books, you were in great company with Mrs. Stokes, Nell Stokes. I know her personally as I was a young person, and she was just phenomenal with all of us. And also Tayshawn and Maggie. So you definitely was in great company. So thank you for that. All right. All right, monthly statistics.
So I do want to point out a couple things. We are continuing to see the door counts rise across the district. The change from last month to this month is quite incremental, but it still is headed in the right direction. And I also want to call out the increase in year-to-date circulation at Pine Hills and Arbor Hill West Hill, and the system overall in terms of e-materials as well. Room use was up above September 2019 numbers at all of our branches except for Howe, although Howe only has one meeting room, so it has one meeting room and one study room, two study rooms, one study room, two study rooms, excuse me.
But I did decrease of one
Yeah,
study.
that's right. That's right. Thank you, Melanie. So, but room use across the district was at the highest level since 2015, which is pretty amazing. And program attendance is up at our West Hill by 65%, and at Delaware, it matched the 2019 attendance numbers, which is pretty great. I also want to point out, at the end of the report, there is a new statistics group to look at. We expanded the incident section to show incident types by branch. So instead of seeing all of the incidents kind of lumped, the pie chart shows incident reports by service area and by branch, but bar graph right under that shows incident types by branch. So you can see with some more detail, the level of physical incidents that happen across the district at each location, as compared to verbal harassment or verbal incidents that happen in violence. So I think that's important to see because it does demonstrate with a little bit more detail what we already know, which is that Washington Avenue happens to be the location where a lot of our incidents happen for a lot of different reasons. But it's just a good way to see these metrics, I think.
Thank you. It's been mentioned about the gala. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to attend this year, unfortunately, which was such a great time last year. I really enjoyed it. So, Trustee Gauze will be in my stead. She's been gracious enough to fill in for me, so I appreciate that so much. So you all have a great time and enjoy. Unfortunately, they're honoring the Red Bookshelf, so I'm sorry to not see that with Batman getting award in the program. So just wanted to put that out there, and also informational items.
There's no informational items memo tonight.
Right, we don't have any unfinished business. New business.
So I want to turn your attention to the state aid for library construction application authentication. That's actually comes to you, well, the information comes to you in the form of a memo. So I'm just going to go through this memo, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to either answer them tonight or take them to Adam Firebaugh, who is our facilities manager. Typically, we would bring this to the facilities committee. This year, we're bringing it straight to the full board. The important notes that I want to make, I'm submitting this memo directly to you all in lieu of the preliminary facilities committee review because the facilities committee wasn't yet formed, and we're seeking approval for the submission of the application, not for the actual project funds. So tonight, you're just approving that we are submitting the application for the funds. And this is a normal step that takes place with DLD construction projects. So the proposed project is part of our facilities long-range plan to implement energy efficient facility options for sustainability. And it's also supported by our strategic plan sustainability goal, of course. And a little bit about the project, we are basically seeking to replace the roof here at Washington Avenue. It has several leaking issues due to the age and condition of the roof. And the existing membrane is EPDM. And as the single ply membrane material ages, it becomes brittle and it shrinks and it places additional stress on flashings. And the bottom line is it's old and needs to be replaced. The masonry on the roof is also a factor here. It's located at the elevator shaft, the stair tower, and the southwest and east corners of the building. And it has developed also several fail points, which is not structurally good. So it is logical to address both at the same time. The project is slated for summer, fall of next year, placing the capital cost in next fiscal year. So that means that in terms of cost projections, the total project cost, regardless of what grant award we receive, whether it's 75% or 90%, is estimated at $602,000. we are eligible for a portion of the 90-10 DLD project grants, and it's subject to how much funding DLD is able to get from the state. That is what determines how much there is to go around to all of these projects. So in any event, Upper Hudson predicts that the grant awards will be announced in the spring of 2025, which is the normal timeline for that. So really, the motion tonight is just, let's see, I think I put it in the agenda. Motion to adopt APL's application for a public library construction aid award to be administered in accordance with the requirements of the education law and Division of Library Development regulations.
Okay, when is the application due?
The application is due, it's due now, basically.
Oh, so it's ongoing? Like,
Is there a deadline?
yeah.
The deadline is now. It's-
Oh, so the deadline is October the 8th?
Well, no, I'm sorry. The deadline is not October 8th. We've already submitted the first portion of the, or rather I should say, we've already submitted the documentation we needed to put this application in the queue. There are so many stages that it needs to go through that this is merely a formality that basically acknowledges that we are setting ourselves up for the approval process.
I vaguely remember, I don't know, just sounds familiar that we did something on the roof.
We did. You're remembering the HVAC units that were on top of this roof, actually. Those were addressed a couple of years ago.
All right, maybe that caused the leak.
No, that was a totally different roof. So the roof here and the roof of the entire building,
Right.
different roofs.
Okay. All right, so I'd like to make a motion to adopt the APL's application for a public library construction aid award to be administered in accordance with the requirements of education law and Division of the Library Development regulations. I'm asking.
I move that we adopt APL's application for the public library construction application.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Trustee Robinson? Sarah Malinsky's on? All right. Trustee Robinson, are you there?
Sorry,
Okay, thank you. Okay, Century Library Board budget.
Okay, so this is,
Oh, I'm sorry, the motion carries. Oh, motion carries, thank you. Okay, Central Library.
Central Library budget. All right. So the Central Library Advisory Council comes together once a year to put together this budget. And the Albany Public Library is the central library serving Upper Hudson. So this recommendation was modified slightly from last year's budget and basically includes up here. So the Overdrive platform annual subscription is, if you have Libby, that's basically the way that you get Libby is we have an annual subscription platform fee. We also have to pay an annual access fee for the magazine collection, which is incredibly popular. If you haven't hooked into that, check it out. A lot of people are downloading Libby just to see the magazine collection that's there. The Kapira mobile app annual subscription is actually the mobile app that is the Upper Hudson Library System app where you can store your library card, you can access museum passes. It's basically there's a portal or a way of identifying of connecting your Upper Hudson app to your library account and using your account through that app. New this year are two items, the New York Times All Access subscription. So this is a really good deal. This price point is a very good deal for all member libraries to have access for its members to the full New York Times. And that includes the cooking section, wire cutter, the athletics portion of the New York Times that's under a paywall. Don't look at that section, so I'm not totally familiar with it. But anyway, it's the all access pass to New York Times content. And that's going to serve all Upper Hudson libraries. Also new this year, is the language line translation services. And this is a service that allows librarians to help patrons through a translation service that is via video or phone. A lot of different organizations in this area use it. St. Peter's Hospital uses it. A lot of other services organizations use it. So we're going to supply $500 as the Central Library to support other libraries' use and our library's use of this language line translation service and see how it goes for at least a year. The staffing line for APL collection development support, that is a static line. We do all of the ordering. Albany Public Library staff does all of the ordering for the e-content that we receive with Central Library funds. So this is an acknowledgement of that staff time that we spend building the collection. And the Overdrive digital content is the largest line in this budget. And that is the funds that we spend to purchase titles in the Overdrive collection that you can then access to. Any questions?
It's excellent.
I'm pretty excited about the New York Times All Access and language line translation services.
Yes.
It's a really good move on the part of the committee and the network. So
Yeah, the cooking, you had me at cooking section.
I know I want those recipes.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Okay. So the Board of Trustees, when we go into 2025, this is our schedule. Did I mention? Oh, I'm sorry. Someone like to make a motion, requesting a motion, to approve the board's meeting. No, we didn't get to that. Wait a minute. Okay. Motion to approve the, Upper Hudson Library, Central Library Advisory Council's recommendation for the 2025 Central Library budget.
Trustee Marlowe, I move to approve the Central Library budget for UHLS.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Hi.
I know, the,
That was both of us.
the motion carries. Thank you. Okay, our trustee, our schedule, meeting schedule.
I just want to point out a couple notes about the schedule. It's very standard. I just want to point out that October 14th is the day after Indigenous Peoples Day, and November 11th is actually Veterans Day. So the library is open on Veterans Day, and it's, I'm just noting it because a lot of places are closed on Veterans Day, and I don't know how that affects y'all.
Okay. Next year. All right, yeah, because I was gonna say, isn't it on Monday? But that's this year. It's on a Monday. So this is our schedule.
This is Trustee West. I heard you say Veterans Day. What about Indigenous Peoples Day?
The October 14th meeting is just the day after. So it's the Tuesday after Indigenous Peoples Day. So I don't know if that matters, but I just wanted to note it.
And then just make a note on the 25th of February, that's the fourth Tuesday, that's our special budget session. So just make a note of that. So in February, we'll have 2 meetings, a special session. All right, and then July 8th is our annual meeting. I will be saying adieu to you at that time. This is my last year, 2025. Yeah. Everybody, time is up. Yeah. Woo. Yeah, so July 8th is that meeting there, so. All right. Now, any questions in regards to our schedule? All right, does anyone like to make a motion to approve the board meeting schedule for 2025?
This is Trustee Rush. I move to approve the board's meeting schedule for 2025.
Barnum, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 The motion carries. Community service survey report.
We just need a setup moment. But was it just the slides or was it everything?
It's everything. There's a little bit of a lag.
Erica, can you confirm? Okay, all right. So I'm so excited to share these results with you. I'm going to take you through the slides. It's going to be about 15 minutes. About 15 minutes. All right. So before we get into the presentation itself, I just want to point out that the raw survey report and the raw data that came from SurveyMonkey, including the list of 411 patron comments that came through the survey, is available in the community survey data folder in the board's SharePoint. So you have access to all of that, and you can comb through it there as well.
Great.
Board members can log in to see the folder and its contents, and if it would be easier, I can also send you the links. So just going to start with big picture. So we have a strategic plan with 4 goals: community engagement, workforce, diversity, equity, inclusion, and access, and sustainability. So as we review the survey data, always good to keep the big picture goals in mind and think about how the feedback speaks to those goals. The community engagement goal in particular was the main driver of the survey. As a reminder, our strategic plan structure consists of goals and objectives, which are the hard-coded goals, and the goals and objectives are just hard-coded into the document that was approved by the board back in December of 2022. But the tactics are designed by the library team, and we use the goals and objectives to guide those tactics each year. So we develop the tactics to make the plan come to fruition. Tactics A, B, and C that you see here were added in service of Objective 1, which is assess and respond to the changing needs of the community. So as part of the continuous evaluation of these tactics, I've been providing the board with quarterly reports ever since the new hours and regular Saturday programs were implemented in November 2023. And the survey I'm reporting on tonight is the culmination of those quarterly reports. The survey tool, here it is. This is the print version that we handed out, but there was also an online version. That's the version you probably filled out yourselves. The community survey was available for almost 4 weeks, August 20th through September 13th. The topics focused on hours, programs, and library program information sources. And we provided the community with both, as I said, online and paper survey options. The survey was promoted widely, including a special email to our 26,500 contact list. It was promoted through weekly emails via the email newsletter for the library, social media posts, signs, slides on TV displays in branches, flyers at outreach events, an alert on every single page of our website, and hand selling by staff in the branches and at community events, and direct appeals to 60 elected officials, community organization leaders, and neighborhood association presidents. And the final tally of the survey, through all of that outreach and promotion, we saw triple responses compared with our last community survey in 2022. Granted, this was a smaller survey, but it's a really strong turnout in terms of what we can expect from a community this size. And the total was 1,468, and that was about 1,200 online and 200 paper surveys. So this is basically an outline of the presentation. We're going to look at hours feedback by branch and current attendance. We're going to look at system-wide programs feedback and the current offerings broken down by age category. We're going to look at how people learn about APL programs, and then we're going to look at the open-ended comments that pertained specifically to hours and programs. So the survey question, or excuse me, the survey asked the question, regardless of your branch's hours, what are the best times for you to come to the library? Select all that apply. And we broke down the options in the survey to weekday mornings, which are 10 to 12, weekday afternoons, 12 to 5, weekday evenings, 5 to 8, weekend mornings, 10 to 12, and weekend afternoons, 12 to 5. And this is, of course, the Arbor Hill West Hill graph that you're seeing now. Now, for each branch, the top orange line, you can barely see that it's orange, but it is orange. The top orange line has data points that represent the percentage of respondents who preferred each chunk of hours. And it goes from weekday mornings to weekend afternoons on the left. And the bottom green line's data points represent the average number of patrons who actually visit during each weekday morning hour, et cetera. So each chunk of time. When are people actually visiting? To get the average number of visitors during a given time frame, we looked at hourly door count data from November 2023 to August 2024. And on days when a branch is closed, you'll see that point, the bottom line, the green line point at 0, of course, because there is no door count on a day when we're closed. But again, the top line is the line that indicates when people who filled out the survey said it was best for them to visit the branch. So the Arbor Hill West Hill graph shows that the survey of respondents who listed Arbor Hill West Hill as the branch that they visit most often, of those folks, a little over half indicated that weekday evenings are the best time for them to visit the library, with weekday afternoons and weekend afternoons coming in second at 45%. This actually does track with the average hourly attendance during weekday evenings, weekday afternoons, and weekend afternoons. Weekend mornings were ranked last by survey respondents, even though we told respondents to choose the best times regardless of when their branch is open. This suggests that Sunday afternoons, when Arbor Hill West Hill is open, is actually favored by people who visit Arbor Hill West Hill in general. So how about the other 6 branches? But before I move on, are there any questions about how these graphs are so far? Because every other one is exactly like this one for the branches.
Trustee West, so no, the graph is actually pretty good. But I just want to point out, you said which is good because Sunday afternoons works for when the branch is open. I just want to make it clear that it does say weekend afternoons. So even though they're not open on Saturdays, it seems like that will be a good day as well.
Yeah, we did not ask in the survey specifically Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, and that is absolutely a true statement. So thank you for sharing that observation about the data. Anyone else with?
Hey, yeah, what is the y-axis on this graph?
The y-axis is not super relevant, but the y-axis is just 0 to 60, and it just happens to
people.
No, it just happens to capture the range. Again, the lower line is the average hourly attendance. So those are the average number of people actually visiting the branch. the upper line represents the survey responses. So the people who, ticked the box for weekday evenings, there were 54 people who ticked the weekday evening box for the people who filled out Arbor Hill West Hill as the branch that they visit most often.
Okay,
It's
thank
just,
you.
I
It's,
think they just
yeah,
did
it's
it just so that they can
boxes
catch all the
and
numbers.
people.
But is
So-
it a number or is it a percent?
It's just the number.
Okay.
Yeah, well, in terms
I
of,
think it's just so that they can cap, so if for instance, if, this is just how I'm looking at it, if they got 100 responses, then these numbers would. It's just to be able to plot them on a graph.
yeah, the upper line is percentages and the lower line is just foot traffic.
So the 54,
It's half.
50,
Said
no,
they
No,
prefer.
just asking what's the 0, 10, 20, 30, 40,
Yeah.
50, 60.
Yeah.
That's just.
Right, I'm talking about the orange line.
Right,
That's
I was
54%.
Responding to
Yeah.
trustee Mazinski.
Okay.
Sorry.
yeah, so the 54% indicates that 54% of the people who said that they visit Arbor Hill West Hill most frequently ticked that
That
box.
can't be
But it doesn't add up to 100.
said because you've got way more than 100%.
Yeah, that's right. But
Because it's per question, kind of.
exactly.
Because people could have selected multiple choices for that. So 54 of the respondents of those who responded for Arbor Hill said weekday evenings were important to them. 45% said weekday afternoons.
So they're not mutually exclusive categories, the mornings, afternoons, evenings.
Correct. Somebody could have said, I would like to come weekday afternoons and weekend afternoons.
Thank you.
Okay,
Trustee
thank you.
Kuzinski. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's a better way to put it than
and the bottom line is the reality. That's how many people that actually came, the foot traffic that actually came into the branch.
those are averages for the timeframes that are on the graph. So weekday
Right.
mornings, we see an average of
Of
12
12.
people,
Right. And then
10 o'clock to 11 o'clock and 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock.
Okay.
All right, moving on to Bach. It's interesting to look at the bottom line showing the actual average attendance at Bach because it shows that weekday mornings are in reality the most popular time to visit in terms of how people are actually visiting and coming to the branch. We see an average of 23 patrons per hour from 10 to noon on Mondays and Wednesdays, which actually makes sense because that's when story times happen at Bach. So when you consider that, weekday mornings make more sense. Weekend afternoons are close second with an average of 21 patrons per hour on Sundays from 1 to 5. So similar to the Arbor Hill West Hill survey response, we see that weekend mornings come in fifth among Bach users in terms of the best time to visit, regardless of the fact that we asked people to rank the best times regardless of when their branch is actually open. So that means Bach users, both through the survey and in reality, are saying that they value weekday evenings and weekday afternoons higher than the sort of theoretical weekend mornings that could be offered. Turning to Delaware, of survey respondents who most frequently visit Delaware, weekend afternoons tied with weekday evenings as the most desirable time to visit. And again, that's the survey response. And this tracks actually with when people are actually coming to Delaware. The highest average hourly visits, about 21 people per hour, happen on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 5 to 8. And weekday afternoons and weekend afternoons are tied with about 19 people per hour. And the far left points on the graph demonstrate that weekday mornings are more popular in reality than they were for the survey respondents. So there are any comments about Bach or Delaware? Okay. Moving on to Howe. Weekday afternoons are actually when we see the most visitors at Howe with about 25 people per hour. Of survey respondents who most frequently visit Howe, weekend afternoons are the most desired time, followed closely by weekday evenings. But in reality, every time frame is almost equally popular at Howe. And I think that that tells us that we might have some real potential when it comes to offering programs on weekday evenings and weekend afternoons. So that's what we want to look at based on this survey response. So turning to North Albany, overall, North sees the least attendance of all of our branches, but we see the most hourly visits at North on weekday afternoons from 5 to 6 on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, or from 5 to 8 if it's Wednesday. Of survey respondents who most frequently visit North Albany, weekday afternoons are actually outranked all of other timeframes as far as the most desired time to visit. That doesn't totally match up with what's happening, as you can see. Despite the fact that there are more weekday afternoon hours open than any other kind of hours at North Albany in terms of our categories, we're just not seeing that attendance. It's also interesting to see that weekend mornings and weekend afternoons weren't highest on the list of desired times, despite the fact that we told people to pick times that are best for them, regardless of their branch's hours. And that's just an interesting thing that we kept seeing.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah, of course.
So I filled out the survey and I'm pretty sure there's like no demographic sort of things. But my thought with some of this disconnect, and I'm just wondering if it's your thought as well, is that like you've got a bump where you think there's going to be story time and your door count's going to count, you know, caregiver and small child, but only caregiver is going to fill out the survey. And, you know, similarly, North Albany, if you're getting your door counts counting kids hopping in after school, are they the ones filling out the surveys? So my thought is there might be a bias in there on who you're catching versus using.
Well, in the case of, I hear you. In the case of let's pick on Bach for a second. Even though the caregivers who are ostensibly bringing their kids to story time aren't choosing weekday mornings, but the traffic, like the survey.
I lost you, Andrea.
To use North Albany to select weekend afternoons or weekend mornings if in fact that was the best time for them to come. But what we saw was among the people who said they frequent North Albany more than other branches, even those people selected weekday evenings, I think it was, afternoons. Thank you. A lot of weekday going on.
Okay, so the 40 and the 42, so we're looking at the weekend mornings and weekend afternoons, that people's interests that they want to attend the branch. However, is that number going to, you know, they have lower numbers during in the mornings, the afternoons, and the evenings. I mean, the survey, what is the indication? What is it telling you that are the hours going to increase on Saturday and Sunday because 40 and 42 people want to attend? I mean, because they said that's their best, that's the best time for them. 40 people said that weekend mornings were good for them. And then 42 people or 42% said weekend afternoons.
Right. So I'm sorry. I know that. What was your question?
My question is, what is, okay, the point where you're not open on Saturday and Sunday anyway in North Albany?
Right.
Right. So, but 40% said that they would prefer your hours on 40, you know, to come on those weekends.
Yeah, that's right.
And 42 said they would. So I'm saying, is that going to change? Or are they going to get their wish that you're gonna open on those weekends? Because 40% said they would frequent the library at that time, or they just filled out this survey for not. I'm just saying, I don't know.
What we do with the data is another question, but this is what we're looking at in terms of like when people are saying the best times are. they're saying that the best times are on weekday afternoons when we are also open at North Albany. So that was, in terms of the popularity contest of hours to be open, weekday afternoons won. In terms of the survey data.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, 60%, but you're only getting six people visit an hour on that particular weekday. I don't know what weekday it was.
Mhm.
You know, it's not
Well,
indicated.
it's an average, so it's.
Oh, it's
all
an
of-
average.
Yeah, it's an average of all of them.
So, okay, the average. All right.
So looking at Pine Hills, we're seeing actual usage data that really does parallel what people are saying that would be optimal for them, with the exception of weekday evenings. Of respondents who visit Pine Hills most frequently, 49% said weekday evenings are the best time for them to visit, but we actually see slightly more visitors on weekday afternoons than on weekday evenings. So it's just kind of interesting. All right. Washington Avenue brings us to Washington Avenue. This is the only chart where the average hourly attendance line is actually above popularity by survey percentage line. And that's because Washington Avenue is the most heavily trafficked branch in our system. So just want to point that out right off the bat. Washington Avenue has some really interesting contrasts to look at. Most survey respondents who frequent Washington Avenue ranked weekday evenings as the best time to visit, but in reality, we see the most visitors per hour, 104 visitors per hour on average, on weekday afternoons from 1 to 5. And we see the second most hourly visitors on weekday mornings, about 80 an hour, and our third most on weekend afternoons, about 75 an hour. So what this picture suggests to me is that people who filled out the survey and indicated Washington Avenue as their most visited branch and who ranked weekday evenings as the best time to visit may not be the same people who are actually coming to Washington Avenue, which is not necessarily a surprise. We are in front of a bus stop. We are across the street from DSS. We see a ton of traffic in the afternoon because because of the DSS traffic flow. So it's worth pointing out that there is a disparity, as actually someone else pointed out earlier, that between the people who filled out the survey and what we see in terms of our actual traffic.
Hello, this is Trustee Rush. So I think when I filled out the survey, I might have even checked all the branches. So I'm wondering if you only took data from people that exclusively put one branch, or if somebody like me who put, 5 branches down, and then the times are that was a separate question. I'm going to put my ideal times to be in any library. It's not tied to a location. So is this, if people put down multiple, that data was collected for these graphs as well?
Yes, I believe we did parse it that way, because otherwise we would have lost out on someone whose favorite branch, who has multiple favorite branches and who has opinions about when all branches should be open.
Okay, because using my own example, I live in Pine Hills. So for me, going to Pine Hills on a Sunday morning might be nice because I could just mosey on over. But on a Tuesday evening, I need to be in the Washington Avenue branch. So my peaks would be different depending on the branch if it were broken out that way, but it wasn't.
All right, moving on to programs. So we asked survey respondents to indicate what kinds of library programs they're most interested in attending, and we broke the themes down by 3 age categories. So children are any patron 0 to 10, teens and tweens are 11 to 18, and adults and older adults are 18 plus, anyone 18 plus. Part of our programs and partnerships team's next steps will be looking at the correlated survey responses, because what you're going to see tonight is basically within each age category, the breakdown of what we are currently offering in proportion to what people are saying that they really want to see. So I'm going to take you through those in a second, but let's go ahead and look at the next slide, which shows children's programming district-wide. So we're seeing on the left what survey respondents want to see in terms of proportions of programs happening across the district. And on the right, we see the actual proportions of the types of children's programs offered in the past year. And that would be roughly September 2023 to August 2024. You'll notice I left percentages off of these pie charts because the percentages on the left would relate to how many survey respondents checked those boxes, whereas the percentages on the right show actual proportions that would relate to the number of programs. So it would be another case of like percentages to numbers, and it's just, it would, the thing to focus on is the proportion of programs that we're hitting or missing. So on the right, in actual proportions, you can see the big olive green slice. That shows we appear to be offering about twice the number of story times than people are saying that they would like to see, whereas we're not offering enough book clubs for kids or programs that would be considered entertainment. So what we're going to be looking at is, okay, how does this break down branch by branch? What are we hitting? What are we missing? Branch by branch. We can't offer everything at every location. And that's an important note to stress because the spaces are different location to location. The community needs are different location to location. And we have to pay attention to that as well. But this is, there's just so much to look at branch by branch, but I wanted to share the overall first.
Just had a question. So is that accurate that there's no book clubs?
Well, we have paid, yeah, I mean,
Or that-
are you looking at the teen and tween now?
No, I
No.
was looking at the children's because
Red pie on the right.
I don't see.
so,
Right.
none, and there is this.
None that we, I guess, specifically tag as book clubs for kids because it all comes down to tagging. So even if it's a children's program where you're talking about a book, we wouldn't have tagged that as a book club. So that's the difference. Parents are saying, where are my book clubs for my maybe 7-year-old, 8-year-old, not necessarily like
Story time.
exactly. So looking at teens, this one's pretty interesting. So orange is the color representing book clubs. And as you can see, we appear to be offering, and again, what we're actually offering is on the right. What people are saying that they want is on the left. What we're actually offering appears to be about a third of the clubs that survey respondents would like to see. And we do have to bear in mind that the majority of people filling out the surveys may not have been the teens and tweens themselves. Shocker. So it's the parents who are filling out the survey on behalf of their kids a lot of the time. And we have to remember that because our youth services staff generally take cues from the teens and tweens themselves when it comes to program planning. And that may be why you're seeing clubs and entertainment as well as STEM programs outpacing book clubs in terms of what we're actually offering. That said, of course, we're going to look at book clubs for teens and tweens. I mean, that's the survey outcome. We'll see what we can do, what works. Any questions about teens and tweens? All right, looking at adult and older adult programming. First, I want to point out that we grouped the categories of adult and older adult for the purpose of this survey. But in our program, like in our events calendar, you can actually choose programs for older adults. And this is where like tagging comes up big, and you'll hear more about tagging a little bit later, but the way in which we tag these programs is really important, and it drives a lot of the time who attends the program. So we have to be more mindful of how we're tagging programs. Anyway, two categories really jump out in terms of what survey respondents want to see. And one is local history. Local history got a lot of attention, but we're only offering a tiny fraction of programs in that category for adults and older adults. Social services programs, on the other hand, are overrepresented in terms of what we're actually offering. And it's also true that we seek out social services partner organizations who are often, wanting to partner with us and not charging us anything. These are social services for underserved portions of the community. It's very important for us to get these services out. And we have often the space and the staff time to plan these programs that are social services related. Yeah.
So with the social services programs, are you going to look to see what the actual attendance was? That maybe that shows it's underrepresented in the desired proportions and people are really showing up to those more frequently.
Yeah, we're definitely going to look at attendance as one of the considerations for how we move forward with this information. Another thing worth considering, similar to the teen results, and this is to your point, Paige, could it be that the people who benefit from the services aren't the people who actually responded to the survey? Regardless, we do know that there's a really good number of older adult and adult patrons who really want to see more local history, more health and wellness, a book club or more author talks at APL. And those needs are not currently being met totally. So we're going to see what we can do. And that's one of the reasons why we got the Library Speakers Consortium platform that will allow us to bring A-list authors to our branches virtually and pair those with moderated discussions, perhaps. So we'll see how that goes in terms of meeting this need for more author talks or book discussions, in addition to the other areas that we want to address. So how do people find out about library programs? For the most part, our website. So our website is evidently through this survey data showing to be an established source of program information for our patrons. Consequently, we need to continue investing time and attention into how we tag and categorize our program offerings and how we display our programs on our website. I know that the library market is the way into seeing what programs are offered, but what are some other things we could do with our website to enhance the visibility of the great programs that we offer? Could we see stronger attendance? Oh, well, sorry, I skipped a part. In terms of tagging, could we see stronger attendance if caregivers knew there would be a craft or a sensory friendly aspect to a story time, for example? So looking at how we tag events in our library market system will be an important thing to look at. Let's see, the e-newsletter also ranked very important as an information source for what's going on and how can we grow readership there? What can we do to more regularly update that list with maybe new card registrants and new users? Print materials continue to be important sources as well. And then looking at X and Twitter, should we just like kill X and Twitter and focus our attention on some other social media platform like TikTok? Because X and Twitter is just not seemingly that vital in terms of how survey respondents spoke. So with the open-ended questions, is there anything you want to suggest about library hours and programs? People did not take that question literally. People really went wild with that open-ended question. And people spoke about a lot of different aspects of library services, not just hours and programs. So I just want to call that out right away. But we saw about less than half of our survey respondents providing answers in this spot. And 103 respondents just wanted to say thank you, or I love the library, or staff is helpful. So that's nice to know. When compiling the subjective data, though, we were specifically looking at comments that went to hours and programs. So that's what you see here. We coded all of the responses. And again, you can see all 411 if you log onto the portal, but basically under hours, the top most frequent comment was be open on Saturdays. And ostensibly that is from perhaps North Albany, Bach, Delaware, and Arbor Hill West Hill. That would stand to reason. And under the programs category, you see comments related to the desire to see programs on weekday evenings and weekends. So I can't say that and I'm sure you're not that surprised to see that these are the most frequent comments about hours and programs. And it really goes to that inherent tension between being open on Saturdays at all of our locations and having the ability to offer regular programs on the weekends. We do not have the staff to open at all locations on Saturdays and also provide these programs that people are attending. So it's that push-pull that drove us to change the hours. And by looking at the program attendance, the people who are coming out, I just want to spend a little bit of time on that because I think it's important for everyone to hear. We've seen 6,207 people come out for weekend programs since the new hours began, and we've offered 281 Saturday programs over 11 months. 60% of those are for youth and early literacy programs. And not only have we seen new faces at these regular Saturday programs, but in the last few months, we've also added more Sunday programs at our Sunday locations. So in August, we saw 50 people at our Buy Nothing event at Arbor Hill West Hill. And just last Sunday, as we were talking about earlier, the Repair Cafe drew about 30 people, 35. So what do we do next with this valuable survey data? We want to use the results to determine our direction with existing partners and seek new partners to create additional programming, whether it's on Saturdays or elsewhere in the sort of desired windows across the branches. That includes STEM programming providers, Youth FX, Historic Albany Foundation, and Discover Albany, among a few. We want to use the results to evaluate how our resources are being used and where we need to invest. For example, we'll be looking closely at the Speakers Consortium subscription and whether there's community interest in those author talks. But resources don't just come down to money. We already do a lot of programs in our spaces, and we have to strike a balance between offering weeknight programs, for example, and keeping some weeknights available for the community to book. So if we have constant weeknight programs at all branches, there's no room for the community to book a space. And looking at that balance is always going to be important. We also want to re-examine minimum programming requirements for our branches and see where adjustments might be needed. Each branch is given a requirement for monthly programming, as you may or may not know. So our standards right now are 1 weekly story time, a weekly school age after school program, a weekly adult program, a monthly teen program, and a monthly older adult program. So what could we be doing to change those minimum requirements so that we're offering more teen programs, for example, or more programs for older adults? And we also need to develop a strategy to enhance teen programming. We are definitely not the only organization that serves teens that's struggling to get them back, but we really need to work on finding out where they are and attracting them again. And we also want to continue evaluating door count data and programs data on a monthly basis. And that's what we share with you all every month, all the statistics, and you can find all of the raw data that supports those statistics reports in the SharePoint. So with that, I just want to thank the board, and I want to thank the 1,468 community members who took the time to provide us with valuable feedback through the survey. So
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you. Any questions in regards to the survey for the executive director? All right.
Could I just ask if there's a timeline for acting on the results, or when do you what's the plan for this data?
Right. That leads right into the next agenda item.
Okay, the quarterly strategic update.
And I'm mindful that it's 8:05. I mean, this is a huge document. I could go through it at another time if you wish. I mean, it is here for your review. I don't know if that's, I just put it to you, President Pryor.
Go for it.
She said, go for it. All right. So I'm going to go through some highlights because it is a giant amount of information. And I think the highlights will suffice. So there are some of these items we've already made progress on. So I'm just going to skip those and go right to the new ones. Okay.
Yes. Yep. Please.
So under community engagement, tactic B, use the 2024 survey results to inform programming at APL. So the steps involved there are review the survey results with the programmers, develop new strategies, develop and schedule programs that meet the needs expressed in the 2024 community survey. And again, we're not going to be able to give everyone everything they want at every location. That is just not possible within our limited resources. But what we can do is look at a balance and what is the right balance. So working with Amy and her team on that challenge will be a big part of this year. Some of these tactics are related to the Upper Hudson Equity Challenge. So the next one, identify a barrier to people using your library. And this one ties in with our UAlbany reciprocal lending objective or goal, or well, I keep using all of these interchangeable strategic plan words, but we want to figure out a way to hook up all UAlbany students with library cards that work at both their institution and ours. And then next, tactic D, collaborate with an institution to ensure library services for those unable to visit the library in person. So we have an e-reader giveaway that we're planning with Albany Housing Authority. And that is a very exciting way that we're going to connect residents of Albany Housing Authority with our e-content. Some of the, let's see, some new objectives under community engagement. Objective 2, which is develop, maintain, and regularly evaluate strategic partnerships. We want to get that head of public safety situated and connected with community partners in social services and law enforcement. We want to, tactic B, develop new relationships or enhance existing connections through Leadership Capital Region. We have a new staff member who is doing that course that I did last year that was incredibly beneficial for my network, and it will be for hers too, our head of community engagement, Rebecca Lubin, who you all know. Tactic C is a challenge tactic. So attending an event held by a different organization that serves a marginalized group in your community. Tell us about the experience. So we'll be sending Rebecca into the field to hopefully attend an event that we've never attended before and see what we can learn. And finally, under community engagement, develop and integrate the volunteer program. We're still working on that. So let's turn to the next page. That is workforce. So the first objective is establish competitive salaries for incumbent and future employees through contract negotiations. We have a contract right now. We're not going to need a contract for a couple of years, but we need to factor in salary increases when we create the next 5-year financial plan. And I'm not saying that we can know now what those salary increases might be, but we can do things like look at cost of living, look at what, project out in the same way that a lot of organizations project out into a 5-year financial plan. So we'll be working with the finance committee to do that. And with, of course, Adam Stump, our director of finance. Objective number two, develop recruitment strategies to increase diversity among APL staff. So we're still pushing for the library clerk position to become non-competitive, and we are close to that with civil service, but we are not at the finish line with that. Tactic B is develop and integrate the volunteer program, and that again ties back in with the previously mentioned. It's the same exact goal. It just appears under two of the goals. Same objective, excuse me. Tactic D, we're going to once again develop the summer youth employment curriculum to provide the kids who participate with a really great experience. And then objective 3, develop a process to evaluate staff engagement and job satisfaction to improve retention. We're going to once again do our our staff engagement survey in January. This will be the 3rd year that we are using the same survey. And I love that because it gives us such a solid sense of trending up, trending down in whatever categories. And I always enjoy, well, I always enjoy, but I'm also challenged by what I see every year in that report. And that's a good thing. Tactic B, using data from staff survey, develop initiatives to address top concerns. So that falls to Melanie and the Staff Development Day team. So let's turn to the next page, which is the diversity, equity, inclusion, and access goal. The first objective is to strengthen recruitment, retention, development, and training practices to ensure that staff reflects the diverse community that we serve. The first tactic is part of the Equity Challenge, provides staff training on equity and inclusion issues. And that's what Melanie is doing right now with DEIA training sessions being held at each branch, in addition to cultural competency training. And it's not just the training, it's also a discussion that happens after the training that brings staff concerns up and addresses, observations that people make about the training that they've just been through. So it's not a static experience. Tactic B, work with community organizations to build a pipeline for job opportunities at APL. That's something that it's an ongoing effort. And that is an effort that is between me and the head of community engagement. And we're just always looking, and this is how our partnership with UAlbany got strengthened last year. This is how, this is the initiative under which we support outreach to other organizations in the city that could be a pipeline for us. Tactic C, promote digital equity in the city of Albany. I'm going to continue working with the Friends and Foundation to identify a sustainable funding source for Keep Albany Connected, which is the Wi-Fi service in Albany Housing Authority and Parks locations. That second objective, align current policies and procedures with DEIA values. Participating in the Equity Challenge for Upper Hudson is one of the ways in which we are aligning current policies and procedures with DEIA values. So the tasks that you see identified as Equity Challenge tasks are all related to that. Tactic B, identify ways in which policies or procedures ensure that both full-time and part-time staff are allowed to participate in equity-related learning activities. That is something that the assistant director and HR generalist will be working on. We have an informal way of doing that, but just formalizing that and helping part-time staff know that we support them. Continuously review and improve library policies with P&G. That is ongoing. Objective 3, assess the needs of the community regarding DEIA and expand marketing strategies to reach underserved groups. That first tactic, we are still working on it. It's a carryover from last year, an evergreen marketing piece in different languages. Tactic B, promote language line translation services pending central library budget approval, which, hey, y'all approved that tonight, so we'll go forward with that tactic, provided that it gets through all the other approvals. Tactic C, develop an inclusive language guide and share with staff. So that is a project for our public information officer, and I think we do a pretty good job with inclusive language, but there's always something new to learn. So we're just going to be firming that up and helping staff understand how to be the most inclusive that they can be in their program descriptions and things like that. Objective 4, ensure that programs, presenters, and materials reflect diversity and interests of the community. Again, an Upper Hudson Challenge, equity challenge item, identify ways that staff members stay aware of emerging trends surrounding equity in libraries, such as inclusive cataloging and the use of plain language. So we'll be fine-tuning our employee training tracking system, which we have one, but not all managers are always submitting what staff are working on in this area. And so we want to identify that and make sure that we're seeing that participation across the organization. And tactic B under that objective, partner with community organization that serves a portion of the community we're seeking to strengthen our connection with. And that is, again, ongoing work. We want to identify a community partner and co-host a program similar to what we did last year with, I think it was a Korean or an Asian American group in Albany we partnered with for a story time, and it was a great example of what can be done with that kind of eye to community connection that could strengthen our relationship with an underrepresented group in our program attendance. All right, so finally, the last page is the workforce goal.
I think is it a duplicate?
Oh, did I?
Yeah, it's a duplicate.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's a duplicate.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
No problem.
So I'm going to have to pivot to, 1 second, please. I'm sorry. Oh, dear. Okay, I know it's there. So if you'll allow me a moment to just find the sustainability portion of this report, I can do that, and then I'll update board docs. I'm so sorry.
Okay, but in respect to time, I'm going to say we're going to table the sustainability portion of the strategic implementation of the update. And I would encourage all trustees to read over. So if you have any questions for Executive Director Nikolai, you can email her regarding to the plan. Based on the survey, I guess they go intertwined. So you can have your questions then. And then maybe send it all out to us in regards to the question you have, because there may be something some other trustee may also have the same question. So we can get that information later. So thank you again for the update. Is there any public comment? Okay. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Are you making a motion?
So I'm requesting someone to I can make the motion to adjourn. I need a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Feel
You guys
better,
get
feel
some
better.
rest and feel better. Oh, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. 8:16. Go to bed.
I am right now.
Okay. Take some Robitussin. 8:16. Thank you.